Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the 2022 Tewksbury Town Crier Candidate Forum. My name is Paige Impink, and I have the pleasure of introducing our moderators, Cassia Burns and timekeeper Rosalind Impink, correspondents for the Tewksbury Town Crier. Some housekeeping before we begin. We ask everyone to mute their phones and ask you to be respectful of the candidates. Tewksbury's annual town election is Saturday, April 2nd. Polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Senior Center, Town Hall, the Rec Center, and the library. Tewksbury Town Clerk Denise Graffio would like to notify voters that absentee ballots are now available at the Town Clerk's office for the election. The Town Clerk's office is open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The final day to fill out the absentee ballot application and vote at the same time at the Town Clerk's office is no later than Friday, April 1st at 12 noon. Please contact the Town Clerk's office with any questions. Questions about your voting precinct is in your town census. Please remember to fill out your town census. This forum is being broadcast live on Tewksbury Telemedia, Comcast Channel 99, and Verizon Channel 38. On Tewksbury TV's YouTube channel and is being recorded. Thank you to Brian Dorrington and Jason Marshall for their help. Tonight we have 3 candidates for 2 seats on the Tewksbury Board of Health: Susan Amato, Melissa Braga, and Nicole Burgett Yendo. We will hear from Board of Library Trustees candidates Suzanne Peterson and Julie Naughton, and 2 of the 3 Select Board member candidates, Jo Marie Buckley and Jane Wellman. Candidate Mark Kratman is unable to be with us this evening. These candidates are to be applauded for stepping up and participating in our town government. Regardless of the outcome of the election, I hope that each candidate will continue to stay involved in the community by seeking to serve on committees, boards, attending town meeting, and participating in other meetings and events in town. This forum is an opportunity to hear from the candidates on topics of interest, but I encourage residents to seek out your own information about them as well. If you don't hear a question you'd like to get an answer to, reach out to the candidates personally and ask them. They will be representing you. The format will be as follows. Candidates will make a 90-second opening statement, followed by questions in a round-robin format, with up to 2 minutes to answer. A lightning round will follow with yes or no questions, concluding with a 2-minute closing statement. Candidates will not talk over other candidates, and all answers will be directed to the moderator. Questions were solicited from the community and have been incorporated into the forum. The starting order was randomly selected before the forum. In the case of unopposed candidates, they are being provided 5 minutes to share their statements. And with that, I'll turn it over to Cassia Burns, who will start with opening statements for the Board of Health.
Thank you, Paige, and thank you, candidates. With that, let's start with opening statements. You'll have 90 seconds each to make your statements, and we will begin with Ms. Burgett Yenda.
So thanks to the Town Crier and for hosting the event tonight, to everybody that turned out and everyone watching on YouTube. Hi, Mom. My name's Nicole Burgett Yendo. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I chose to run for the Board of Health because I want to improve communication from the Board of Health. I also want to connect residents to mental health resources within our community. I've lived in Tewksbury since 2009 with my husband. We've got 2 kids in the district, 1 in 6th grade at the Ryan and 1 in 4th grade at the Trahan. I have 20 years of clinical practice experience, graduating from Northeastern University in 2002 with my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. I went on to work at Mass General in infectious disease, working as a research nurse on HIV clinical trials, investigating medications and vaccines for both industry and the National Institute of Health. I received my Master's of Science in Nursing from UMass Boston in 2010, and I'm a certified family nurse practitioner. I'm accredited by the American Academy of Nurse Practitioners, and I'm licensed to practice independently in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. I've spent most of the last 10 years working in primary care, but I now work in bariatrics at Winchester. Several residents planted a seed a few years back about my running for the Board of Health, and I've decided this is a great way to serve my town. I think it's extremely important to have medical expertise on the Board of Health. Public health and safety is at the heart of all of its regulations. It's crucial to have members that understand infection control principles and use them to guide the board's decision-making. My 20 years in medicine, and specifically my infectious disease experience, makes me the best candidate for this role.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Ms. Amato.
Hi, my name is Susan Amato, and I have lived in Tewksbury for the past 28 years with my husband and our children who grew up in the Tewksbury school system. My reason for running is to ensure that all the proper processes and procedures are laid out clearly for our residents. Residents, homeowners, businesses, and schools. I want to see a flawless process in obtaining permits and inviting new businesses coming into our town, existing businesses, as well as our residents that are here. You know, Tewksbury's come a long way in the 28 years that I've lived in this town. But for the last 10 years, most of you know I've owned Angelina's Italian restaurant in Tewksbury. I also owned my first business at the age of 20, which was a full-service salon. In addition, I've traveled extensively throughout the world, Caribbean, Asia, Africa, and Australia. I also want to point out that I am a trustee for the Tewksbury Hospital. All of my past experiences are subject to Board of Health regulations and guidelines, and I bring with me a clear sense of what is needed to ensure proper health and safety is protected in our town. I do believe that I have what it takes for this position, and I hope you vote for me on April 2nd.
Thank you. Now Ms. Braga.
Thank you. So I want to thank the community present, online, YouTube, all of that, Paige, Cassia, Rosalind, Brian, and Jason for putting this all together. I really appreciate that. So my name is Melissa Braga. I am married to my husband, Steve, who is my greatest supporter. We have 2 dogs, Resco and Bailey, and we don't have children currently, but we hope to be blessed with them and raise them in this wonderful community of Tewksbury. Sorry if my voice is shaky, I'm kind of nervous, so public speaking is not my thing. But I am both a registered nurse and a small business owner. So I have over a decade of experience in direct patient care in different varieties. So I've worked in urgent care, family practice, behavioral health, pediatrics, medical, surgical, cardiac floor at the hospital in Haverhill, home health care, and also as a school nurse. So kind of a variety from all ages. And I want to make the Board of Health, like Nicole had said, more accessible and more responsive to the needs of the families and businesses. I want to help Tewksbury stay healthy and well and for everybody and be your voice. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will move into our question portion. Each of you will have 2 minutes to answer the question, and we will begin with the first question to Ms. Braga. What do you see as the most important public health issue facing Tewksbury today, and how would you address it?
Thank you. So I have a couple of things. I would want to say children's health is a big issue. That's our future. Our children are our future. So if we start with them young, being a holistic nurse, I also look at root causes of things. So I find that in children, if we can educate them and help them with their nutrition, exercise, everything put together into a good place, we can actually get them into a good place. But I also don't want to forget the seniors, because if anything that we've learned in the last 2 years is that it is very important that we get a hold on mental health, stress, for kids, for adults, for elderly, all of them together, to be able to make sure that they are well, not just physically, with disease, but also mentally and structurally, internally, because that also brings out a wonderful way of, being able to, to be able to really get to the root causes of things. So if they start off with a good nutrition and, learn how to really work on those stressors and all of that, they can get a good base for their health and wellness. I think that is the most important, is starting with the young ones and, all the way to the elderly. So thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Ms. Birgit Yandow.
Can you repeat it?
Sure. What do you see as the most important public health issue facing Tewksbury today, and how would you address it?
Okay. So I reached out to a lot of different residents to see what their interactions had been like with the Board of Health, and if they had a magic wand, what would be the thing that we would address. And the number one response across all people that I talked to was mental health resources and support. So I talked to educators within the school, I talked to school nurses, seniors, parents, and I think that COVID has kind of put everybody through the ringer in terms of depression and anxiety are increased, substance abuse has gone through the roof, suicide rates are up. So I think that as a Board of Health, we need to be talking on a community level about mental health, kind of chipping away at the stigma the more that we talk about it, and also connecting people to resources that we have available in town. So we do have a variety of programs under the Frontline Initiative umbrella dealing with substance abuse prevention. They're doing some work in the schools. And I think that a lot of the resources that people are looking for are actually here. So this is one of the things that I wanted to tackle in terms of communication from the Board of Health, is making sure that people are aware of these resources, because it's at the top of everybody's mind. And we do have even things like 24/7 community available counseling. If you just walk into the police station or call Frontline's number, you have access to counseling. So as a healthcare provider, I know that the wait to get in for mental health services can be anywhere from 3 to 4 months, but there is kind of a bridge even within town.
Thank you. Ms. Amato.
Thank you. Well, I really believe that our top issue for me would be drug and substance addiction and mental health issues. This is a pandemic that we've been fighting this battle for years, and it's just getting worse. Unfortunately, COVID-19 has made it even drastically worse than what it was prior to COVID-19. It's had a major impact on both of these problems, and it has significantly increased over the past 2 years. We do not have enough facilities or new practices to assist those in need. And communication is a huge one, because if we have these practices or the facilities, then people need to know about it. There's a lot of people out there who are looking for places to go to, and you spend many, many hours trying to search out what's available, where can we go. I've had people call me saying, help me, where can I go and get assistance? And it's not easy, and it's become a pandemic, and we've had this for too many years. This is definitely would be my number one thing to work on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now for the next question, it will go to you first, Ms. Amato. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, the World Health Organization has reported a 25% increase globally in the prevalence of anxiety and depression. In light of this, what sort of mental health initiatives do you think the town should take up?
It's all the same. We need more communication on where they can get the assistance, whether it's through the schools or through the local doctors, the family doctors that we have in town. We have a very close-knit medical family in town. There's a lot of doctors that the same families have gone through to for generations. Maybe we target those places to help, because there are a lot of people going to our local facilities looking for assistance. And again, it comes down to communication. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to you, Ms. Braga.
Can you repeat that again, please?
Of course. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, the World Health Organization has reported a 25% increase globally in the prevalence of anxiety and depression. In light of this, what sort of mental health support initiatives do you think the town should undertake?
Thank you. So I agree that we do have some resources. We probably don't have enough, and a lot of people don't know where those resources are. I did work at the behavioral health in Tewksbury, so I did work a lot with drug addiction and people, and a lot of times there were not beds, especially during the winter time. So it's very tough for anyone with a mental disease to get the help that they need, and they don't have the resources or know where to go. So communication, again, I agree, is very, very important. I believe there's also a gap between the medical and the police. When I actually talked to the chief of police, and he had mentioned that there, with mental health and with another topic, that there is a gap between the sectioning of certain people that might be in a space where they could be dangerous, and then getting released quickly at the medical facility because of whatever regulations and stipulations. So I think there has to be a better communication, better resources, and more programs out there with the schools, starting from, again, the children, getting them to learn how to talk and discuss those difficult things and communicate with family and friends, and really being open and honest, and having that, if someone says something to you, make sure that you tell someone as well, because the more we keep it in, not so good. So just really being able to have that communication. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brigitte Yando.
Can you repeat it?
Sure. If in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, the World Health Organization has reported a 25% increase globally in the prevalence of anxiety and depression. In light of this, what sort of mental health support initiatives do you think the town should undertake?
Okay, so I think it's a couple of targeted things. So I think town-wide, we need to be having community discussions, like I indicated before, addressing stigma about mental health issues, substance abuse issues, but then going to certain sectors of the population. So I think there's a huge need in the schools, not only for all the social emotional needs of the kids, but I'm hearing from educators that there's serious burnout in the schools. So having some kind of programs there that kind of address those issues, and kind of providing that space for kids to be able to talk about this in school with their peers. They're kind of all going through it together. And I agree with Melissa, there is a huge gap in terms of at the point of confrontation with police officers. We do have, through Frontline Initiative, the counselors are embedded occasionally on appropriate calls. And then they're kind of connected ultimately to something in terms of counseling, but that wait can be several weeks at best. I talked to the executive director of Frontline Initiative, who actually says that they do have the capability to provide bridge counseling within town, and he said it's less than 1% of their referrals are for counseling. So I think there's this huge need, and people don't know about it. So this again comes back to communication. I feel like that service is there. People are saying that they're really in need of it. So as a Board of Health member, I would really want to be kind of a dot connector for those people and make sure that they understand how to access these programs. Thank you.
Thank you. And for our next question, we will go back to you, Ms. Brigitte Yando. Outside of mental health initiatives, if elected, what is one initiative you're interested in undertaking during your term?
Communication. So the other thing when I was talking to people, the other theme that emerged as I talked to everybody, different elected officials, people in schools, the number one thing was, I haven't really heard from the Board of Health. I don't really know what they do. So I think that the Board of Health, yes, it's a regulatory body, but it has potential to be so much more than that. We could really be doing a lot in terms of public health. So I think setting up communication channels, connecting with different programs in town, but most importantly, connecting with residents, whether it's social media, using the town's webpage a little bit better. We could be compiling all sorts of resources that would really benefit the entire community, and use social to kind of get it out there. We could talk about newsletters. Seniors have said they would like something at the senior center. Programs, so much falls under the public health umbrella. Really, the sky's the limit. But I do think communication has not been the best. And that was one of the things that caused me to run, is that with my background in public health, community outreach is an interest of mine, and I would really like to tackle that. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, same question to you, Ms. Motto.
Okay, thank you. Well, the main reason I am running, and what I would love to see changed, is the way we process permits whether it's an addition to your home or it's bringing in a new business to the town. Anyone who lives in Tewksbury truly understand how difficult it can be when you're trying to get something done. And again, I know we keep saying communication, but obviously that's a huge problem here, because if you're trying to get something done in this town, nobody knows where to take you. They don't know where to send you. If I'm adding an addition on my house, I must have spoken to 10 different people that sent me in 10 different directions. As a businesswoman, I want to bring it all together. It's the same as when I worked for corporation. I would take all the departments and have them work in all the different departments so they understood exactly what the other department was doing. That way, when a resident or a new business is trying to come to town, we can easily say to them, this is what you have to do. Everything is written down. Everything is easy for you to go through it and not have to. What happens is you end up speaking to a couple of departments, you do what has to get done, and then you go to other departments, you do what they say have to get done, and then by the time you bring your stuff back, it's like, oh no, you need something else. So this is costing you money and time, and again, whether it's a new business or a residential. And in order for us to get the new businesses that we need to streamline some of these processes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Braga.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Sure.
Thank you.
Outside of mental health initiatives, if elected, what is one initiative you're interested in undertaking during your term?
Okay, so I think if anything, the Board of Health has had a lot of attention in the last 2 years where it never really did before. So kind of putting everything together that both Nicole and Susan had said, just having the more information and attention to topics, having people know what is going on when it is before it's after the fact. So, and then putting all those things together, compiling, listening to the people and what they want, what they need, having the people be involved and asking them what is going on, what are your concerns, what are your issues, what are you seeing, because I believe that is what we're here for. We're here for many things. We do so much. I mean, half the people that I talked to didn't even know what the Board of Health role is. There are so many different parts and components to it, so I think just having them know what we do, how we do it, and what we can help the community with, and how they can help us give feedback so that we can make it better. So in the case where Susan was talking about businesses, that's a part where we can, talk to businesses and see where things are going. Where, Nicole talked about communication. So it's all kind of meshed together. I believe that we have to make people aware of what our role is on the Board of Health so that they can actually help us and improve our role and our job, because we are here for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll come back to you for the next question, Ms. Braga. We learned a lot about emergency planning during the pandemic. What steps do you believe Tewksbury should take to prepare for potential public health emergencies in the future?
That's a great question. Thank you. So I envision multiple things. So educating people on health. So hand hygiene, very important. Sanitization, covering your mouth when you cough, which people think that is like nothing, but staying home when you're sick. Those kind of things that people, I think, realize more now than they did before, and so they're more cautious. But being able to really educate people on taking control of their health and working on the inner side. And then, obviously, continuing on would be to, if there were to happen to be something else in the future, would be to educate people on that, signs, symptoms, what to look for, how to go and get help, where to go to get help, where to go to get tested, where to go to get screenings, all of those things. And then working on just optimizing with programs and hospitals and other medical staff and the community to work together to build a really good foundation so we can continue on and keep us healthy. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Birgit Yando.
I think, again, for me, it comes back to communication. So early on, if we use, COVID, I think people in a public health emergency like that, where there's a lot of unknown information and it's changing constantly, there was not a lot of communication. So maybe coming up with a plan within the Board of Health, deciding on how pertinent information is going to be communicated. They did do a reverse 911, I think it was January, but I don't recall that happening before, and it wasn't, there wasn't like a reliable way that people were getting information. There was no use of the town page overly for that. There's a little COVID-19 resource information there, but there's just was not a lot of guidance from town. So I think maybe coming up with a plan for if we urgently need to reach people, this is how we do it. If it's something more about, kind of changing protocols, these are the channels that we would use so that people know how to access the information. And I think if there are specific things we're asking people to do, or in the case of, vaccinations for COVID, removing any barriers to whatever you're asking people to do and streamlining whatever process, it is. Otherwise, everything, it's going to be kind of an obstacle and a hindrance, and you're going to have less uptake of whatever you're asking people to do. So kind of depends on what the specific circumstance is, but I think communication is key and removal of any barriers. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Amato.
Yes, this is a good one for me, because having restaurants during COVID, it hit us harder than a lot of places. And I have to say that our Board of Health did an amazing job by the guidelines and the information that they gave us, but it only works if you read them. The same with the governor when they sent out the information. Again, it only works if you read them. We made sure that we read everything that we received. And my staff went to class that the town put on. If you all might remember that, they put on a class for businesses, and we attended that class. For us as a restaurant, the information was there, and it helped a lot. And that same information is what we needed. I don't know what happened in the schools because I don't have children in the schools or in other businesses. But I do know that if people wanted the information, it was there. But maybe there's a different way that the town could provide it to other places. Maybe it was an overload for restaurants because we did get the proper information. And what we got was what everybody else should have gotten, because it saved everybody. I mean, it really went from log list of what you do each hour and every 2 hours, to cleaning bathrooms, to signs on your wall. It was out there. We just knew where to find it. So again, it might be communication for the other areas. But thank you.
Thank you. For the next question, we will also be going back to you, Ms. Amato. A major issue affecting local public health right now is the lack of coordination and shared services between towns. Right now, Tewksbury's town nurse is funded through a grant that shares funding with Tyngsboro and Billerica. How would you work to ensure that Tewksbury is addressing shared services with other towns?
Okay. Are you talking about the schools? I'm sorry.
Shared services in general with the towns surrounding us. Public health nurse. Public health nurse.
Okay.
The town nurse.
The town nurse, thank you. Well, I would think that the surrounding towns would all meet together, meaning Wilmington, Tewksbury, Andover, Chelmsford. Again, I'm going to point out, I'm not in the medical field, I'm in the business end of it, but I would certainly think that if you're working for the town as the nurse, then you're working with other places. There should be some kind of coordination between all of them, whether it's, again, Tewksbury, Andover, Wilmington, Lowell, Tyngsboro. And I'm not aware that they have any, but they should if they don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Braga.
So I think with COVID, there was a lot of turnaround, from my understanding. There was a lot of turnaround with public health. And so there was also a lot of people doing a lot of hours, and it was a lot of stress and a lot of things going on in the Department of Health because they were overworked and understaffed. So I know that they did get a grant, and now they have a new, from my understanding, they do have someone that is doing the shared services, like you said. So I believe it is very important for that communication part. So to have, and you know, time management in a way would be important to really focus on where they are, like what towns, having the towns communicate with each other, having meetings, having a set program, I guess you can say, would be, you know, an actual like schedule of what's going to happen. How is this nurse supposed to, you know, go through all the different towns and make sure that everybody's communicating. So even if it's, you know, taking in and making sure that they are taking the time on each town equally so that it's not divided up. So I would have to learn more about the shared services per se on how that actually works, but I do know that it is a lot for one person to do different towns. So I would hope that they would be able to really hone in and work together and have the towns communicate for sure. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brigette Yando.
Can you repeat it?
Sure. A major issue affecting local public health right now is the lack of coordination and shared services between towns. Right now, Tewksbury's town nurse is funded through a grant that shares funding with Tyngsboro and Billerica. How would you work to ensure Tewksbury is addressing shared services with other towns?
So I think the first issue, if the position is grant funded, my first question would be if there's kind of overutilization by certain towns, you probably want to allocate services based on need. So if there's a need for more than one person to be floating between towns, then I think we need to access the grant writers to be able to increase the budget so we have the appropriate personnel. And then the other thing I think would be helpful is making sure that everything that is assigned to the nurse that's going between towns is truly a nursing duty. As someone that was an RN at one point, I know that sometimes you get your nursing things and then a couple other things piled on that could be delegated to other people. So making sure that whatever that person is doing is truly something that requires nursing credentials that couldn't be done by someone else. And I think if there's a lack of communication between the towns and nobody knows where the town nurse is supposed to be when, and there's confusion there, then I think at the Board of Health level, perhaps the towns should be having their Board of Health meet regularly to kind of discuss the needs and open the channels of communication. Thank you.
Thank you. The last question in this section will be coming to you, Ms. Brigette Yando. What is one way the board could reach out to the community to make them more aware of services offered through the health department?
So again, what I think the easiest way, it's not going to hit everybody, but I think the easiest way is utilizing different social media platforms and the town's webpage. So the town webpage has a beautiful new makeover, and I think that we could compile resources. When I was looking at them, so we have a Department of Health, and then we've got the Board of Health. Some of the resources are on Department of Health, some of them are on Board of Health, so it's a little bit all over the place. It's a little bit piecemeal what's there. So I think coming up with some categorized resources that are in one place or the other and sticking to that, updating that information, and then when you want to push information to people using social media, we have, like I had mentioned before, several seniors had approached me about, can we get something back up and running at the senior center? We're not on Facebook, what can we do? And they had proposed the idea of doing like a monthly newsletter or something like that to convey information to them. But I think the kind of quick and dirty way to get information out is to use social media, and then we can obviously keep the webpage up to date is going to be crucial as well. If you start putting resources there, somebody's going to need to be on top of that. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Amato.
Thank you. There's a number of things I believe that we could do. A lot of people don't know what the Board of Health does and what they stand for, and the whole town needs to be educated on what their responsibilities are. And it's not just the Board of Health, it's all the departments. We could start with the Board of Health and do a promotional piece, just letting people know, like, hey, here's, this is what we are, this is what we do. If you need this, or that, this is where you're going to go. It's all information, and it should come from mailings, internet, and any programs that the Board of Health can come up with that would get the attention of whether it's school children or business people. There's a number of different things. You just need to be sort of creative and flexible. But I think there's a number of things we could do to make the awareness much better than what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Braga.
Thank you. So I think, yes, social media is a big platform, but not everyone uses it, and most of our community also does not use it. It's more, I would think, for younger generation, which is great because you want to get them involved at a younger age. But I think putting it on social media, both of them kind of, both of Nicole and Susan had pretty much said what I wrote down as notes, would be like newsletters, reaching out, going to the senior center themselves. So maybe even coordinating days that we can go and talk to certain places like the schools, businesses, community centers, senior centers, to let them know, A, what we do, and B, what we can help them with, what are their concerns, and what is going on right now in the community. So having that, not just social media and so that people can go and click, but also us going out there into the community and actually having that face-to-face interaction with people and talking to them and letting them know and hearing from them. So coordinating between the members and even, outreaches, meetings, whatever, and then also, mailings would be great, but that also costs money. So, I always think of finances at the same time. So being able to just reach out to people in different manners, and I think using all the forms that we have, and we are people, so face-to-face interaction is always great, and we can learn so much from just going out into the community and telling them what we are doing. So thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will now move into our lightning round of questions. Each of these questions, we are looking for one-word answers, and we will begin with you, Ms. Braga.
Yay.
What is one area you were surprised is under the board's jurisdiction?
So that is a good question. I actually wrote down like a lot of the things because I was not aware that they do. I never thought about like the pools, beaches, camps, and motels. So all of those, because I didn't think about like pools.
Thank you.
So.
All right, Ms. Burgett-Yando.
I'm not surprised that it's under it. It was just like a whole section that I wasn't expecting on recombinant DNA.
Ms. Amato.
What was the question?
What is one area you were surprised is under the board's jurisdiction?
Okay. Do you know what? I don't have an answer to that question. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. And then our next question will be coming to you first, Ms. Amato. As a board member, do you feel you would be able to put your personal beliefs aside if expert opinions on health-related topics were different from your own?
That's a hard question. And the reason is,
We just need a yes or no answer.
oh, yes or no?
Yep.
Say it again?
As a board member, do you feel you would be able to put your personal beliefs aside if expert opinions on health-related topics were different from your own?
Yes.
All right. Ms. Braga
Yes, it's about the people.
and Ms. Burgett-Yando.
I'm a scientist. I follow the science. Yep.
All right, next question to you, Ms. Burgett-Yando. Recently, Brookline became the first town to enact a lifetime smoking ban in which no one born after the year 2000 could legally purchase tobacco products. Would you support a similar tobacco-free generation initiative in Tewksbury? Yes or no?
I'm going to say no.
Okay, Ms. Amato
No.
and Ms. Braga.
Could you repeat that again?
Sure. Recently, Brookline became the first town to enact a lifetime smoking ban, in which no one born after the year 2000 could legally purchase tobacco products. Would you support a similar tobacco-free generation initiative in Tewksbury? Yes or no?
No.
All right, and then our final lightning round question will be coming to you, Ms. Braga. How would you grade the performance of the current Board of Health during the COVID-19 pandemic? Just a letter grade, please.
A letter grade?
Yep.
Okay. Can I do like minuses and stuff?
Sure.
Okay. It's so tough. That's a tough one because it's, with what they had, I would say A minus. I mean, there's always room for improvement.
All right, Ms. Brigitte Yendo.
C.
All right, and Ms. Amato.
B.
All right, and that concludes our question and answer portion of this forum. We will move into our closing statements. You will each have 2 minutes to make your closing statements, and we will begin with Ms. Braga.
Oh, me again. Okay, so thank you again, everyone. I really appreciate the time that everyone put into this. So again, I am running to serve on the Board of Health because I want to be a voice for the community. I want to work together with the residents to keep Tewksbury healthy. That is the main goal. You elect the people on the board, so it is about what you want, what your voice matters. As an active member of the National Medical Reserve Corps and the American Nurses Association, I'm also a church volunteer serving the homeless. I really like to serve people. That is my thing. And also as a nurse, that's what we do. We serve, we help and give back. I'm a registered nurse. I've spent my career advocating for patients and their health. I have seen an impact that is really possible, that is beyond the bedside and helping serve in a broader, more far-reaching capacity. So not just being at the bedside, but being able to help with the community is very important, and advocating for what people are looking for. I believe that, my experience is bringing important insights to understand to the board. I have a lot to learn. I don't know everything, but I am willing to learn. I am willing to put in the work. I think that's really important too, because you're always learning every single day. So I want to completely understand my role if I were to be elected and really do the best to my ability to make you guys happy. I'm a business owner, so I know it's hard to operate businesses when maintaining the safest possible environment. So I think that's also very helpful to work with businesses. And I promise to listen to you guys. I want to be accessible. I want to listen to your concerns. I want to advocate for you, not myself. And I will work together with all of the officials and organizations to keep you guys healthy and well and knowledgeable. So I hope I can earn your trust and your vote. Thank you on April 2nd. Time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brigitte Yendo.
Okay. Apologies, some of this is going to be a little repetitive. Medical expertise is needed on the Board of Health. With my 20 years of clinical practice, including my infectious disease experience, my skill set would be an asset to the Board of Health. I have a passion for public health and community outreach, and I would like to use my knowledge in these areas to enhance communication from the Board of Health to residents using social media, town's webpage, perhaps print media. Many residents have commented on the need for more communication from the Board of Health. In fact, the lack of communication in early COVID is what caused me to seriously consider running. The board should be more visible and accessible to residents and should be used as a resource, providing scientifically accurate information. I would like to use the Board of Health to highlight some of the great programs we have in town. I've made a point of reaching out to many different residents during the campaign to find out what their greatest needs were, and the answer was nearly unanimous: mental health supports. I connected with the Frontline Initiative folks on several occasions to learn about their programs and found that many of the resources I heard from that were needed by residents were already being offered. The Board of Health should be cultivating relationships with community programs to amplify their voices in order to connect residents to programs. This will increase utilization of programs, which could lead to increased grant funding and expansion of services. I reached out to educators and staff within schools and learned of the need for more mental health resources for both students and staff. And as the only Board of Health candidate with an anticipated endorsement from the Tewksbury Teachers Association, I look forward to hearing more about specific resources they need and how the Board of Health can facilitate that. If you've watched how I've run my campaign, you'll agree that I'm a hard worker, conscientious, responsive, and a great communicator. I'm excited to be able to use my background to serve this town, and we've chosen to raise our kids here, and it means a lot to me to be able to do that. I hope you see the value that I can bring to the board and the ways in which the Board of Health can serve you. I look forward to being an active and engaged member of the Board of Health and respectfully ask for your vote on April 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Amato.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank everyone who has come out to listen to us today, and thank you, Paige, and all of you who have participated in having us. It's very much appreciated. Well, first I want to say that we do need someone from the medical field to be part of the Board of Health. It's very important, and I have to say I was very surprised that we didn't have more people in the past years and this year that were in the medical field. What I bring is the business end of it. And I feel that the reason why I'm running is because of issues that have come up in the past, whether it's my home life as a resident or a business. I really would love to see Tewksbury be able to make our permits a flawless permit so that it's easily for people to come here. I want businesses to say, oh, I want to go to Tewksbury. I want to open up in Tewksbury. We have electric companies or plumbers that you'll call on and they'll say, where do you live? And you say Tewksbury, and they're like, oh, their hands go up. It's because it's very difficult to try to get business done. I want to fix that with the help of the board. I want to bring everyone together so that we're all working together and we do create a seamless process, something that's easy. I want us to be a destination. I want to see more restaurants. I want to see more stores. It's, we're from the North End, so we're used to having a ton of restaurants or clothing stores. It's going to bring more people to our town. We need to be more business-minded. Thank you very much, and I hope you vote for me on April 2nd. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And with that, that concludes tonight's Board of Health Forum. Thank you, candidates, for coming out tonight, and good luck on Election Day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, candidates. Stick with us. We'll be back shortly with our library trustees. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're here at the Tewksbury Town Crier 2022 Candidates Forum. We're going to now hear from our library trustee candidates, Julie Naughton and Suzanne Peterson. Each candidate is going to give a up to 5 minute statement, and we'll begin with Ms. Naughton.
Hello, everybody. Thank you to the Town Crier, Cassia, Rosalind, Paige, the town, everyone who's here. We appreciate the opportunity. My name is Julie Naughton, and I'm running for library trustee. Even though I'm lucky enough to be in an uncontested race, I'd like to tell you a little bit about me. My family has lived in Tewksbury for 15 years. My husband, Joe, works in IT, and we have 3 kids. We have a sophomore at the Shawshene Tech, a 7th grader at the Wynn Middle School, and a 5th grader at the Ryan Elementary. This is the first time I've run for office, but I've been volunteering in town for over 10 years. I was a stay-at-home mother for years, and when my kids were all in school and preschool, I decided to jump in and help at the schools. It's created some great opportunities to meet people and learn more about our schools. If you have children in the Tewksbury Public School System, you've probably seen me in the library helping with a fundraiser or an after-school event. I spent 3 years as the Heathbrook and Trahan Pack treasurer, and I'm currently serving as my second term as the Ryan Pack treasurer, and I anticipate serving at least 1 more year because we have a meeting tomorrow night where I think I'm going to be elected. In addition to working with the Packs, I took on the role of vice president of the Friends of the Library 2 years ago, which means you've probably also seen me on Facebook promoting the various fundraisers and events that we were able to run during the pandemic. I may have asked you for a recipe many times. 4 years ago, I decided that it was time to go back to work, and I wanted a job that made it possible for me to keep a similar schedule to my children. So I took a job as a cafeteria substitute, and I've worked my way up to a full-time kitchen employee at the North Street Kitchen, which means I also might be your child's lunch lady. I've been considering running for library trustee for some time and almost ran last year when there were 2 open spots, but I was only halfway through my term as vice president and didn't feel it was the right time to step away. That when I discovered that at least one of the trustees wasn't running for re-election, that it was the time that I could run. As a library trustee, I would be responsible for governing the library, primarily by working with the library director to set policy. I'm excited to move on to a new position that's focused more on policy, and in anticipation of this, I've been spending time reading up on all the library policies and what a job of it being a trustee entails. I think we're fortunate in Tewksbury to have an amazing library with excellent programming and services for both children and adults, and I look forward to helping the library staff continue with their stated mission. Last, I'd like to thank everyone who's been so supportive of me since I decided to run. Oh, wait, I lied, that's not last. As a friend of mine said to me earlier, vote for me so you don't actually have to write a name in.
That's great. Thank you very much, Julie. Suzanne?
Hello, my name is Sue Peterson, but after I pulled papers in January, I became Suzanne Peterson because that will be my name on the ballot. I moved to Tewksbury in 2004. Sorry, I need these to see when I moved here. In 2004, but when I moved here, I was working midnights in Boston. So all I did was sleep in Tewksbury. Sleep in Tewksbury, drink coffee, work. Sleep in Tewksbury, drink coffee, work. And then one day, I woke up and I was retired. I was a senior citizen, and I was on a fixed income. I fell in love with the library. Everything at the library was free to me. That's very important to us seniors on a fixed income. In 2018, I joined the board of the Friends of the Tewksbury Library. In March of 2020, I threw my hat on the table to become the president of the Friends of the Tewksbury Library, and the library closed 2 weeks later because of COVID. Last year, with my vice president here and the excellent team I have on the board, in 2021, we raised over $20,000 for fundraising at the library in spite of COVID. So my next step, now that I have been doing library trustee, is to plunge into the world of Tewksbury politics and to become a library trustee. This way I can maintain my interest in the library and I can see if I like Tewksbury politics. And I really appreciate these political events to meet so many of my fellow candidates, to meet so many voters. And I want to tell everybody out there that when you go to vote, now you can match my face to my name or my name to my face. Everyone get out there and vote on Saturday. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Suzanne and Julie. And as a former library trustee, I can absolutely say it's a wonderful job, and thank you for stepping up to do this. And Tewksbury is very fortunate to have a wonderful, wonderful library. And thank you for your good work on the Friends as well. Thank you very much. And we're back. Thank you for staying with us for the Tewksbury Town Crier 2022 Candidate Forum. We're now going to begin with our Select Board portion of our evening. One of our candidates is not able to be with us this evening, Mark Kratman, but he did provide a statement which I will be reading for you. Unfortunately, I could not make the forum because of a previously scheduled commitment, and I requested that the dates be changed so I could attend, but that request could not be granted. I have received questions and candidate profile requests from the Town Crier, the Tewksbury Patch, as well as the Tewksbury Carnation, and have provided a response to all the questions and answers submitted. I truly look forward to talking to all the voters and will continue my hard work making Tewksbury a better place for all our residents. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Cassia Burns.
Thank you, Paige. We're going to begin with opening statements. Each of you will have 90 seconds to make your statement, and we will begin with Ms. Wellman.
Thank you, Cassia. Thank you to the Town Crier, Tewksbury Telemedia, and all the volunteers who have worked hard to be here tonight and bring this opportunity to the community and voters of Tewksbury. I also extend my appreciation to all the candidates this year. I've been elected to the school committee as town moderator and to the select board, and I know it isn't easy to run for local office. We're all running because we believe we have something to offer the community. 2 years ago, almost to the day, this community shut down, and the rest of the world really, due to the pandemic. And it's refreshing to see so many new faces running. And I want to commend everyone for their efforts on behalf of the residents of this community. I've been a resident for 21 years, and both of my children recently graduated from TMHS. They are here. Thank you very much for coming. Way to spend spring break. I'm seeking re-election to the Select Board to continue the important work for our town and the work that I genuinely love to do. And many folks have reached out over the fall asking me to run again. The last 2 years have been an exercise in showing how local government can pivot to respond to the pandemic while continuing work that has to happen: sidewalks, road paving, opening the regional dispatch center, building a new fire station, a new elementary school, developing a diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative. We had our first Pride rally. We had multiple Black Lives Matter rallies in town. And today we launched our first community-wide DEI survey. We stood up a rental and mortgage assistance program, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Buckley.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jo Marie Buckley, and I'm running to be the newest member of our Tewksbury Select Board. So far, throughout this campaign, I've been shown what the Tewksbury voters want for their future. I've heard both their concerns and aspirations, and I've listened to the pride in their voices when they talk about the history of our town. My job as a member of the Select Board is to turn the voice of the people into the action of governance. I'm so excited to bring my experience as a former Selectwoman in Wilmington to the duty of leadership here in my chosen home of Tewksbury. We share a community together, we offer a bright future for our children together, and we work to leave Tewksbury better than we found it, together. I'm running to make a difference. I'm running with the confidence that I will be the advocate Tewksbury needs as the next member of the Select Board. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will move into our question section. Each of you will have 2 minutes to answer each question, and the first question will go to Ms. Buckley. During the pandemic, residents were able to live stream and call into meetings for the town's various boards and committees. With in-person meetings now able to occur, how do you still plan to keep meetings accessible to town residents?
So I believe that in-person meetings are really important. I believe that the community should have access to those meetings. So my hope would be that Tewksbury Telemedia would continue televising them, as they've done a great job of doing for years now, and that the town crier would cover those meetings. But I do believe, as we've all encountered in the last 2 years, when you have remote meetings, you tend to have technological issues. So my concern would be, I would want to make sure all of our community had access to these meetings, whether they drive here in person or they have the ability to stream it in some manner. The same, I think it's important for us as members of the Select Board to show up and attend those meetings in person if at all possible. So my hope and expectation would be that we would hopefully be getting back to an unmasked sense of normal, and we'd be able to meet in person as a community together.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wellman?
Thank you. It's a good question. It's come up a lot for the Select Board. And I like hybrid meetings. I think they're a great way to be more inclusive to folks who can't get out at night, to when night government happens, when volunteer government happens. We've been doing our DEI meetings in a hybrid model because we have some members who just can't be there typically at night. And it allows everybody to participate, and it allows the meetings to happen kind of organically. So folks are able to, I'm just being repetitive at this point. So I would like to continue hybrid meetings. I like the idea of folks being able to call into a meeting to the Select Board to participate. We've sometimes had Verizon representatives attend our meetings remotely, and I think that gives us more opportunity to ask questions. It gives folks more opportunity to participate in meetings. The issue with hybrid meetings, however, is we don't have the staffing to offer that to all of our boards. And that's a real issue. I don't think we're going to be hiring additional people in our telemedia department. They are fantastic, but we can't expect them to be here all day and, you know, for all of our night meetings as well. So there is some prioritization vis-a-vis how many meetings we are able to do hybrid and broadcast at the same time.
All right, thank you. The next question will go to you first, Ms. Wellman. Under the latest Massachusetts House of Representatives redistricting initiative, Tewksbury will now be represented by 3 different state representatives and won't account for the majority population in any of the 3 districts. What actions would you take to ensure Tewksbury's interests are adequately represented at the state level?
Thank you. That's a really interesting question, and it's upset a lot of people in the community when this went down as a result of the census. It was disappointing when the district was carved up because, as you said, we don't have a majority in any of the districts. It makes it harder for a Tewksbury resident to be elected. That said, we also will now have 3 votes for Tewksbury at the State House. And so I think that's really important to keep in mind. And I have a very good relationship with our legislators. I talk to them all the time. I send them messages, send them emails, and I keep them aware of the issues that I care about and the issues that the board is talking about. I think that they're responsive. I think we can do better as a board to engage our legislative delegation, and with 3 members, I think that gives us a little bit bigger of a voice on Beacon Hill. So while we will not be a majority in any of those districts, and while it will be harder for a Tewksbury resident to do that, it's not unheard of. It's done in other districts, and somebody who really wants to work hard, I think, could make that happen. We also have great representation from our representatives. As Mr. Robertson is from Tewksbury, is raised here, and Vinah Howard used to live here as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Buckley.
So I think you don't need to have a majority to have a strong voice, and I think that we're lucky that our delegation does have a strong voice. The 2 representatives that have previously represented us continue to represent us and listen to us, and I'm happy that I have such a close connection to Rep. Robertson and worked on his campaigns. I kind of laugh in my head at the question at how Representative Jim Maselli would have responded to this question, because he was very much of a short stature but of a strong voice. And I think that as Selectwoman Wellman has already alluded to, having 3 votes is going to be important to us. So although we won't be a majority in any one representative's district, I do think as long as we continue to make sure we're being heard, it's only going to help us in the long run.
All right, thank you. Next question is coming to you, Ms. Buckley. With improvements to Route 38 now well underway, what do you feel should be Tewksbury's next major infrastructure project, and why do you think the town should take up this project over others?
So obviously everyone's talking about the next infrastructure project. My hope would be that we're going to focus on the DPW / public maintenance building, the school maintenance building. In reviewing kind of how it was presented initially, where we're at now, it's amazing that we went from a $40 million project to a $25 million project, all without impacting the taxpayer, maintaining the staying within the tax levy and not requiring a debt exclusion. So I would expect that would be the next major project that this town would be looking at. I'm excited that Route 38 will hopefully be completed, because then we can focus on where we really need to be focusing on for tax purposes, which is economic development.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wellman?
Thank you. So Route 38, the construction's actually going to start in the next couple of weeks, and we're having a public meeting for that, so folks should look out for that for folks who are interested. There are 2 pieces that I think that we need to focus on with our infrastructure. So I know you asked for 1, but I'm going to answer with 2 because it's my time. The first thing is water infrastructure, and we've allocated all of our ARPA funds from federal ARPA funds to the water infrastructure program so that we can replace the faulty and decaying water mains. And everybody knows you have a water main break and your water turns brown, it drives everybody nuts. And I agree with that. So I was happy to support that initiative to put our ARPA funds to the water infrastructure. And I also agree with the DPW project. It originally was budgeted at $26 million, and then it was inflated because of supply chain issues due to the pandemic. And so when we relooked at that cost, we're like, well, that's not tenable, so we will bring that down with re-engineering the project, looking at how we can bring those costs down. And I support a $26 million project. I support some of that will be taken from funds that we already have internally, and then the rest of it will be bonded out inside the levy limit. So it's like paying a car payment. It's important for people to know the difference, that we're not adding to a debt exclusion on top of the debt that we already have, and it won't add additional taxes to our residents. So being able to do that will protect our investments in our trucks, in our DPW, equipment and apparatus, as well as our school department facilities will be co-located at that site. The site also requires some remediation due to environmental impacts, so that's part of the project cost, and that has to be engineered into it as well. And so it's a tremendous amount of work that everybody's undertaking to bring that in. Tewksbury invests in its infrastructure. It's a wonderful ethic we have in this community, and to be able to do this inside the levy limit is critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question to Ms. Wellman. If elected, what is at least one major thing you hope to accomplish during your term, and how would you go about doing it?
So many things I would like to accomplish during my term. The last 3 years have been impacted by the pandemic, so we had to pivot, as I said earlier. Senior tax relief has been on my list for the last 3 years, and it's on the warrant for town meeting in May. And there's senior tax relief and veterans tax relief. And I think it's an equity issue. And I think it's really important because as we have increased our debt borrowings for a new fire station, for a $98 million elementary school, we have not been able to provide relief to our seniors who are on fixed incomes. And Mrs. Peterson spoke about that earlier during the library trustee commentary. So I think that's a critical piece that we need to do. I really want to see us get a second ambulance as well for our fire department. It's something I'm really working on to bring us to the state-owned land pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes, that the state would pay us for Tewksbury Hospital, for the land that they have there. They're not paying any taxes on that land. It's land we can't develop and use for new growth. So if we can become part of that pilot program, I think that will go a long way to funding a second ambulance, which we need in the community, as we do tremendous amount of runs up to the state hospital. And that would also go for public safety for our police department and increase staffing there as well. So those are some initiatives of the many. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Buckley.
Sure. So I alluded to the DPW structure already, so I'm not going to answer that again. That would obviously be a priority for me. I think another thing that I would like to focus on over the first term would be to develop a stronger relationship with the state hospital. In learning about this town more and meeting with department heads and talking to current elected officials, it's become clear to me that what is a great resource in the state hospital in a lot of ways is actually a drain on our town's fire and police. So my hope would be that we'd actually be able to sit down at the table and work out a situation where we are supporting them and they're supporting us financially. A second ambulance is great, especially with all of the calls that go to the state hospital that our current EMS is supporting. I believe we need to have additional resources for the police department, again, because of all the calls that go to the state hospital. You heard earlier the Board of Health candidates discussing mental health and addiction issues, and we have this amazing resource literally in some of our backyards that are addressing mental health and addiction issues every day in the Tewksbury State Hospital, and it would be great to have a collaboration with them where they can actually educate the community at all levels and at all ages to help address those concerns, especially post-pandemic. So that would be one of my priorities in my first term on the board, would be to help facilitate that relationship a little bit more.
All right, thank you. Next question is coming back to you, Ms. Buckley. Both of you have previously held elected office. Was there any decision that you made while elected that you regret? If so, what would you have done differently?
I don't regret any decision that I made on the Wilmington Select Board. There were a lot of difficult decisions to make. For those of you familiar with the town of Wilmington, they have a lot of issues that they were dealing with and continue to deal with. If anything, the one thing I wish I could have done in my tenure on that board was to speak stronger in my beliefs on how they should be handling their facilities. Wilmington let a lot of municipal buildings fall apart. I said at the beginning of my tenure there that my concern was they were not going to be able to build a senior center and a town hall at the same time, and I now watch as they're trying to couple those together, basically using the senior citizens to get a new town hall. So I wish at the time that was being presented that I had spoke more firmly as to why I didn't agree with that process, because I'm watching it play out in the way that I had hoped it could have been avoided.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wellman.
Thank you. When you're on boards or in any elected office, or an appointed office, you make the best decisions you can with the information you have at the time. So hindsight's 50-50, and I think sometimes you would make a different decision if there was different information available. There's no particular decision I regret. There have been many hard ones, and I have tried to always maintain communication with the communities that have been impacted by the decisions that we've had to make. during the Great Recession, I was on the school committee, and we had a really, really challenging time with our budget, and we had to make a lot of hard decisions. And it was a very similar climate to what it was in Tewksbury recently with work to rule and picketing and so forth. Through that work, I had the privilege of negotiating a successor agreement with the TTA. And it was my last night on the school committee that we signed that agreement. And we cried a little bit after that meeting, and we hugged, and it was emotional, and it was powerful, and it was a pleasure and a privilege to do that. And there was a lot of hard work, and everybody contributed, and we were very real and authentic at the table. So I don't really regret any decisions. I would just, I think it's important to live in the moment and do the very best you can with the information you have. The pandemic's been a really hard time for a lot of people, and had I known different things about the virus that we didn't know, we may have made different decisions earlier on, but I think everybody's done the best they can. So thank you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Next question back to you, Ms. Wellman. Residents complain that their taxes are too high, yet Tewksbury's tax rate has been going down for the last few years while home values have been rising, resulting in higher property tax bills. What can you explain to residents about what they get for their money and how their taxes are used?
I appreciate that you went to the effort to explain how tax rates work with increasing valuations. So it's wonderful when you invest in a home and your property values go way up because a home is your primary investment. But of course, because of Prop 2.5, we can only raise the levy limit so far, and therefore tax rates go down. It's a wonderful thing to say, oh, tax rates went down, but we all know that taxes go up and what people pay goes up. What you pay for in a community are the services that you receive. So that's education, that's public safety, that's infrastructure, roads, water, electricity. I think that when you invest in a community by buying a home, you're also investing in public safety, for instance. And that affects your life safety. It affects the longevity that the amount of time that you live, it can. So it's important to fund these things. It's important to fund our DPW appropriately. It's important to fund our teachers and our schools appropriately. And that's a balancing act, and that's judgment. And I think all the boards worked well together to be very careful about how we set tax rates when we look at the CIP shift, when we do the tax shift between commercial industrial property and real residential property, to make that balance work as best we can for all parties. Additionally, we've worked very hard to keep water and sewer rates stable so that at least that impact won't also be felt by the ratepayers. But I think we get a lot for our services, a lot for our taxes here in Tewksbury vis-a-vis services. And I think it's something that all politicians should have their feet held to the fire on. Everybody should talk to their representatives on the select board and on the school committee about those factors and what it means for Prop 2.5, because we have never passed an override in this community. And hopefully we won't need to. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Buckley.
Sure. So the big thing that's stated to me by constituents is the tax bills and the water and sewer bills. I was happy to see at the February 15th Select Board's meeting the presentation by the town manager that water and sewer are staying steady for the next fiscal year and that there's not going to be any increases. For our property taxes, the simple answer is look at what the town does for you. Look at what the reputation of Tewksbury is. Our housing market is a strong market right now. And I know it's not consoling to seniors to say that your house value is going up if you're not ready to sell. So I appreciate the fact that the seniors of our town want to stay here, don't want to have to sell their house to be able to afford to stay here. So I acknowledge that the housing market being a boom is great for those of us who want the value of our house to increase, but can also be a burden for your taxes. But the reality is we put our trash out every week and it gets picked up because we have a solid relationship with a trash company. We, unlike other towns, don't need to pay additionally to have trash picked up. I'm amazed that Republic, the contract that we have with Republic compared to what other towns have been going through with trash and recycling. Our school systems, our municipal buildings, the fact that we're already at a DPW building in Tewksbury is so impressive to me the fact that we have invested so much in our school buildings, in our municipal buildings, and that we're at the point that we're discussing a DPW building says a lot for how this town has been managed. And I think when you look at your tax bill and you see that slight increase or that increase because of the assessed value, you have to keep that in mind, that because of the way Tewksbury is seen, the way that we educate our children, and the way that we've managed this town, we are an asset. That's huge. And I would want us to work on the commercial tax base. That would be something I would want us to focus on, because I do agree that the residents they're bearing the burden right now with the property taxes.
Thank you. This will be our last question prior to moving on to the lightning round, and it will go to Ms. Buckley. Attendance at town meeting is often observed as being fairly light. How would you work to improve outreach to residents to inform them about town meeting and boost attendance? And would you consider changing the date or time?
So the town of Wilmington had gone through this for years. They created committees about it. I know, and Tewksbury was actually a benchmark they were utilizing in trying to determine how to improve town meetings. So I find this an interesting question, because having attended a few town meetings now as a visitor and then as a resident, I'm actually impressed with how town meeting is run. I'm impressed with the way that it's structured so that you're not stuck in a gym for an entire day, that you break it up, that you allow people access to it in smaller bites. I think affords more members of the community to come and participate, so if they so choose. I'm always amazed that you have a budget of $127 million that you're discussing, and you have a room with maybe 100 people in it. I wish more people were involved in town meeting. I would obviously encourage them to do so, but I think that's an age-old question as to how to get more people involved. You have to want them. They always come out for the hot button topic, but we want them to come out for everything. So I would just continue asking them to participate, and encouraging them and reminding them that the process that we have in place right now is pretty great.
Thank you. Ms. Wellman.
Thank you. That's a great question. I love that question because I used to be the moderator. And I love open town meeting. Tewksbury has the second largest legislative body in the world, actually, which is super cool. The largest legislative body in the world is Andover. So there you go. So very close here with legislation. I think open town meeting is great because anybody can participate. Any registered voter can come and participate if they wish. And we know, like when the casino was on the town meeting warrant, everybody came out. It was one of the largest town meetings we've ever had, maybe the actual largest. And the Attorney General's office uses a photo of that meeting in their presentations on open town meeting all over the state. So it's awesome. So I think people will come out when the issues are there. I think when we see citizen-oriented petitions, when residents bring forward a petition, like the no-knock warrant that was, not no-knock warrant, excuse me, oh my gosh, I can't think of it now. The word's gone. For people coming to soliciting, that's the word, soliciting, to houses. A lot of people came out to talk about that at town meeting. When you have residents bring ideas forward to improve their community, that engages other residents. So it's less interesting when we want to talk about the budget and we break it up and we talk about this department and that department. And I think generally that means that residents think that the town is doing a good job. And they maybe listen to the hearing on the finance committee. I think they're more interested in what's changing in their community, what's interesting, what is somebody bringing forward to talk about, and that will bring out residents. So making it easier for people to bring petitions forward, making that process more well-known, that would probably bring more people out.
Thank you. And with that, we are going to move into our lightning round of questions. We are looking for one-word answers to these questions, and we will begin with Ms. Wellman.
Of course you will.
Do you support term limits for all elected town boards? Yes or no?
Yes.
Ms. Buckley.
No.
All right, next question, Ms. Buckley. Do you believe infrastructure is an asset or a liability?
Asset.
Asset.
All right, Ms. Wellman, do you support the new DPW? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Buckley, the town website was recently relaunched. Do you find the new town website to be user-friendly? Yes or no?
Yes.
Ms. Wellman.
Yes.
All right, and our last question in the lightning round. Do you support new state requirements for transit-oriented development zoning in Tewksbury as an MBTA adjacent community? Yes or no? Ms. Wellman, you first.
It's challenging, but no.
Yeah, I would say no, but I would put a pin in it that I'd want a little bit additional information before it's a hard no.
All right, thank you very much, and that concludes the question and answer portion of this forum. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes to make a closing statement, and we will begin with Ms. Buckley.
Thank you. So I want to thank the town crier. I want to thank Tewksbury TV. I especially want to thank my husband and my family for their support always. Where is Tewksbury right now, and where do we want to take Tewksbury in the future? The success of the past cannot be rested upon, and the failures of the past cannot be allowed to produce further mistakes. Tewksbury is growing, and we need to make sure Tewksbury isn't outgrowing its own people. We have the ability to grow responsibly and to develop our Main Street and our residential neighborhoods to benefit our shared quality of life, but this will require determined leadership. Communities decay in an atmosphere of empty promises, and opportunities vanish to the sound of empty rhetoric. A bright future can turn dark without the right vision. With the help of our town manager, Tewksbury has developed a legacy of responsible spending, of taking advantage of the right time to engage the right projects. And Tewksbury's infrastructure outshines many of our neighboring communities because of it. I, like all of you, benefit from this work. I live in a town I'm proud of, and I'm here tonight to tell you that I'm going to do my best to be part of why we are all so proud of Tewksbury. Municipal governance isn't about seeing your name on a lawn sign. It isn't about how many people know your name. And it certainly can never be about the political fashion of transient opinion. Municipal leadership is about results, results for the good of your neighbors. In all of my many years of volunteering and of leadership, my greatest joy has been the pride I have shared in seeing my community come together. I see that in Tewksbury. I see it at the food pantry, I see it at the tree lighting, and I see it in every organization working hard behind the scenes of daily life. If you look closely, you'll see it too. Tewksbury is a town of selflessness, of giving, and of hope. If humility isn't your key, you'll never unlock the meaning of service. My husband says that. I am asking for your vote, Tewksbury. I am asking for your confidence in me to do my part as we take this longer journey together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wellman.
Thank you. Once again, thanks to the town crier, Tewksbury Telemedia, my family and friends who've supported me, and all the volunteers that have worked to bring this event and other election information forward to our voters. As I said earlier, I'm seeking re-election to the Select Board to continue important work for our town, and it's work that I really love doing. Local government is my vocation and my avocation, and I'm really excited about the opportunities that are before Tewksbury today. These are things we've been working on for the past 3 years. The opening of the new Center Fire Station, the resurfacing of Main Street starting next month, the diversity, equity, and inclusion work that is just beginning, the new elementary school. Senior tax relief is on the town meeting warrant. We are continuing work on open space and, God willing, the rail trail. We have a new planning and economic development director to help grow the community through commercial enterprise. The sun is shining on Tewksbury, and we have a bright future before us. Does that mean we still have work to do? Absolutely. But I humbly ask you for one of your 2 votes for Select Board coming up on April 2nd. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And with that, that concludes tonight's candidate forum. Thank you to all the candidates who came out tonight to speak. Thank you to the organizers, our timekeeper, Roslyn. Thank you to all the attendees and those watching at home. And most importantly, thanks to Tewksbury Telemedia and Brian Dorrington and Jason Marshall for recording and broadcasting this event. Recordings of Night 1 and Night 2 will be available on YouTube tomorrow. For more election coverage and other local news, please subscribe to the Town Crier and visit us at www.homenewsware.com. Good luck to all the candidates, and remember to vote on April 2nd. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.